Happy New Year to you all. I'm a lay minister here in Verwood, and this is my thought for this coming week. Today in many churches up and down the country, the theme for this Sunday is being called by God to do something special. The readings for this Sunday include the calling of Samuel. He was called by God at a very young age to serve him and become one of the best-known prophets of ancient times. Samuel first realized that he was being called in the middle of the night when he actually heard God's voice saying, "Samuel, Samuel." He initially thought it was a priest who was sleeping in an adjacent room who was calling out, but it was not, it was God. Samuel eventually said yes to God's call, and that started off an amazing journey for him over the rest of his life. He had great influence over many people of his day, including Saul, who became king, and his coronation. Actually, some of the liturgy used in the recent coronation of our King Charles III came from that time when Saul was anointed king all those thousands of years ago. As well as the calling of Samuel being read out in churches today is the story of how both Philip and Nathanael, two of the disciples, were called by Jesus to follow him as well. Jesus said simply, "Follow me," and they did. They accepted Jesus' invitation to follow, and that started amazing journeys for both of them. To be with Jesus during his earthly ministry, to personally witness all the miracles and teachings that Jesus did. Whilst we're told that both of them simply got up and followed Jesus straight after being asked to do so, I am sure that God had been preparing their hearts and minds for quite some time before that. Maybe they both felt that something was missing in their lives, that there was something more to life than what was around them. Maybe their hearts were being stirred to yearn for something more, an awareness of a gap in their hearts which needed filling, making them therefore both ready to respond by a definitive yes when Jesus popped the question to them. They must have both recognized that Jesus was the answer to what they had been yearning for. It is believed that Philip was a fisherman, and because Nathanael was a friend of Philip, he could also have been involved in the fishing industry as well. So both of them may have left a steady job and taken a real risk in following Jesus. Maybe while their hearts were keen to follow, their heads were saying, "Well, wait a moment, you're taking a risk here. Are you wise?" God does call people to do things, and it is not just for those ancient days. He calls people today to serve him in a variety of ways, not just in working at churches or in the established ministries, but God does call people to do very important things in the secular world as well, being involved with leadership, government, business, professions, entertainment and charities. God is very interested in the workings of all that goes on around us, and he calls people for it. I can look back on my life and see times when God has led me in a particular direction in commerce, when my heart wanted to go and meet some particular people, but my head thought maybe I shouldn't. But my heart won, and I look back at that and think, yes, God was behind that. Whilst it is unwise to dismiss what the head is telling us, we must allow our hearts to flourish and take risks. Was Mr. Bates, who took on the post office for decades, led by his head or his heart? There is much wrong out there in the world and society at the moment. We can all recognise that. And I'm convinced that God wants people to take a risk and try and put things right where wrong is. God is a God of justice and desires things to be done properly and with integrity. However, he needs people to do that and calls us for that task. If truth be known, each one of us has a calling to do something, but we need to say to God, "Yes, I am here. Show me which way." We're not all called to be like the disciples or Samuel or indeed like Mr. Bates. But there is something out there for us to do that will have a positive impact on other people's lives. If you are interested, ask God to stir your heart and be ready for his call. Thank you for listening.